With a major selection of the looks your kiddos love starting at just $4 in the Walmart app, a new school year means a stylish new them. Who knew? Find skater skirts and Crocs that say, I'm casual but cool. Sparkly sneakers that say, it's my classroom, you're just learning in it. And preppy polos that say, I'm the teacher's pet, even if they're mommy's menace at home. Find their favorite styles starting at just $4 in the app. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new.
But you know, happiness can be found even in the darkest of times. One only remembers to turn on the light.
It takes a great deal of bravery to stand up to your enemies, but a great deal more to stand up to your friends.
The ones that love us never really leave us.
Working hard is important, but there's something that matters, believing in yourself. If they can do it, why not us?
Hey everyone, welcome to Hogwarts, a podcast. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Hogwarts, a podcast. Today we're covering Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, Act 2, Scenes 7 through 10. And before we get started, Elizabeth is here with us.
Hey everyone.
And I just want to give a shout out to Barry, who is the host of the Retold Harry Potter podcast. Barry was kind enough to reach out to us through Instagram and was kind enough to ask me to come on one of his episodes. We did an episode covering chapters 5 and 6 of Prisoner of Azkaban. If you may remember what character pops up in chapter 6, that is Professor Sybil Trelawney. And he specifically wanted some of my takes.
Which I'm sure
Trelawney.
you were happy to provide.
I was very happy to provide these takes. No, he had listened to some of our episodes, and he had listened to specifically those chapters that we did, and he found my takes on Professor Trelawney quite fascinating. So he wanted them on his podcast as well, and I was very delighted to come over. He's got a very unique podcast with a cool setup that involves a little bit of trivia, a little bit of differences between the movies and the books, as well as talking about a couple of chapters in just one episode. So the chapters 5 and 6 are one episode. So
I'm excited to listen when it eventually comes out.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun. Very grateful for him reaching out. Yeah, I hope you all check it out, listen to it, let us know what you think. But thank you to Barry, thank you to the Retold, a Harry Potter podcast. If you want to reach out to the podcast, you can do so by finding us on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, YouTube. You can all find those at Hogwarts a Pod. You can also participate in the polls that we have on Spotify. Love going over those polls and seeing what all of you think about each individual episode and some of the things that happened in those episodes. You could also leave a comment on Spotify as well, which is where the vast majority of you do leave those comments, and we love seeing those as well. So, we will start with Act 2, Scene 7, and this is set at the Triwizard Tournament, edge of the Forbidden Forest, in the year 1994. So Scorpius and Albus have indeed gone back in time now, and they are welcomed to massive crowds, and Ludo Bagman introducing the Triwizard Tournament very, very loudly. And it's interesting because he's introducing us to the Triwizard champions.
What I most took away from this was that Ludo is a bit much in this
Ludo's
moment.
To be fair to Ludo, he is a showman, and I think they call him a
Very
showman.
much is a showman. I just found it interesting. He was giving basically everybody except Fleur a nickname. Like, he introduced Crumb as being crazy with a K, and he compliments his eyebrows, which I thought was very entertaining.
He also says he could do whatever he wants with a broomstick.
That too.
Because remember, he is a professional Quidditch player at this time.
Right. He called Cedric delicious and says he makes everyone go weaky at the kneesy. Which I thought was like, what are you talking about, Ludo?
We'll double back to that one in a second.
And then he calls Harry Plucky Potter and says that Harry keeps surprising them all. I don't know why Fleur is the only one who doesn't get some kind of a nickname. It surprises me, given that she's like the Vila who's supposed to be so attractive and stuff, and he's just complimenting everyone else is being plucky, delicious, and crazy.
Well, what he does for Fleur is he does an exclamation before her name.
That is true.
So what, as far as I understand it, he does this in French.
Yes.
Because she's French.
He says, zut alors.
Yeah.
Apologies for my pronunciation and accent. I took French a long time ago.
So, as far as I am aware, that's just an exclamation being like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like, oh wow.
Zut alors, c'est fleur. Yeah.
So, it's clearly him establishing that she does have a presence about her.
I just thought it funny that he was just so complimentary of everyone else. And it's just like, and here it's Fleur.
Oh, I think it's still complimentary. I just think it's different because it's in a different language. So it might come off as maybe less so, but I'm sure all the French students maybe liked it. However, they do describe, like, when they call out Crumb, big applause.
Yeah,
like pretty much everybody
Durmstrang
applauds.
gives like massive applause. Hogwarts gives a massive applause.
Because he's a famous individual, so
Right.
everybody is applauding him. And then when it's like, Hogwarts, Cedric gets the big applause. Harry gets applause, just less than Cedric, which they note. And with the French crowd, not necessarily when they introduce Fleur, but just generally when they announce, like, hey, Bo Battens is here,
yeah.
and it's great. But they're like, they note that the French crowd is like, meh.
So, yeah, like the lamest cheer that they could give.
Like, it's a French.
Okay.
All right.
Here's my question for you. Would you rather be complimented as being called crazy, delicious, or plucky?
Probably plucky. I do appreciate the alliteration,
Yeah.
even though they're stretching on the crazy Crumb bit. Let's talk about the delicious Diggory for a second, and not just because...
She makes you weaky in the kneesies. Couldn't take it seriously.
Not just because I'm a particular fan of Cedric Diggory, but calling a contestant delicious?
That's what I was saying. I was getting the vibe. I'm like, Ludo, these are still technically children. You're making these comments that are a little like, okay.
They're still in school.
Yeah.
They're not technically children. Technically, Harry's the only child. The other three are technically adults in the wizarding world, because they're all 17.
Well, yeah, but
they're still
they're
teenagers
at
in school. Yeah. But still, I can't imagine... Couldn't you think of a different D word to pair with Diggory? Dynamic. Diggory.
Diligent.
So, just an interesting choice of words from Ludo Bagman. But he is a showman, and he is trying to get the crowd going.
It
and I think
certainly sets the vibe.
He's doing a good job of it, I think, because the crowd is going nuts, other than the French.
Yeah.
He does also give Charlie Weasley a big shout-out, who guides the dragons to this first event. So it's nice to see Charlie Weasley get a little publicity here. Albus and Scorpius end up spotting someone they recognize in the crowd, and they bump into a young Hermione.
Now, it did specify in the play, like the stage notes, that young Hermione is supposed to be played by Rose. Which, again, if you're not paying attention, I think, when watching the play, this might be a little confusing, because you might think that Rose is actually Rose instead of Hermione.
Well, they think that this character is actually
Scorpius
Rose.
does, yeah. Scorpius calls her Rose, and she's like, who are you talking about?
Which,
that's not my name.
For the record, Rose is Hermione's daughter.
Right.
So roughly at the same age, they might look alike.
No, I think it makes total sense to have the same actress play her. I just think that if you're not paying close enough attention, it might go over your head.
Yeah. So it's interesting that Scorpius, one, calls her by the wrong name, and then young Hermione is like, I'm sorry, what are you talking about? Also, you're wearing Durmstrang robes, where's your accent?
Yeah.
And then Albus is like, oh, don't worry about him, Hermione. And then Hermione's like, how do you know my name?
They are doing such a terrible job at time travel.
They are the worst spies of all time. They run immediately into someone they know. Mm-hmm. Well, they should know that she wouldn't know them, but they clearly don't. It's complicated.
It's very complicated.
But they can't grasp it. So while they're dealing with this, Cedric steps up with his dragon, the Swedish short snout, and Cedric begins to duck and dodge this dragon. And Scorpius is like, hey, this time turner is kind of acting a little weird. It's beginning to shake, and it's aggressively ticking.
He could have called him Dodgy Diggory.
Could have called him Dodgy Diggory, yes. Albus successfully disarms Cedric, which Ludo then mentions in his commentary by questioning if there's dark magic at play. Someone's trying to literally sabotage Cedric, which is actually pretty on the nose.
He also calls them diggers. I'm here for all of Ludo's nicknames.
And Ludo openly questions whether this might be the end of Cedric Diggory's entire tournament, because you're facing a dragon now without a wand.
Yeah.
So, alarming, to say the least. However, at this point, because the time turner is shaking and ticking so violently, Scorpius grabs Albus aggressively, and they immediately transport back to the present.
And Albus yells in pain in the process.
Yes, Albus does become injured in that process. And then they immediately get discovered by Ron and the other parents as they descend on the kids.
They wondered, too, if there was literally anything that changed, which at first it didn't seem like it. The only thing that was mentioned in the stage notes is that Ron has a wardrobe that now makes him look more staid. But other than that, it's just, Harry sees Albus is in pain and he's happy to see him, but then Albus collapses and we gotta go to the hospital wing.
Yep. And that's where we transition to Act 2, Scene 8, Hogwarts, the hospital wing. Harry is sitting next to Albus and spots Albus in a painting above them. It's obviously Dumbledore in this painting.
Yay!
Harry says to Dumbledore that he's missed him. The portrait in the headmistress's office has been empty lately every time he's been to the office.
Of what I remember from this portrayal on the stage, it did work fairly well. They had like a big open frame and then the actor obviously standing right behind it. But again, their use of lighting did make it seem like there was some like shadows on the actor. It also looked like a matte
painting of just a black background.
Yeah, so it did look like an actual painting. And of course, obviously, since Wizarding World paintings can move, it was easier for him to just transition on and off of the portrait, especially with the darkness. Mm-hmm. So it was a cool effect.
So Harry, after Dumbledore says, is the boy going to be okay? He says that Albus's arm, according to Madame Pomfrey, seems like it was broken 20 years ago and set in a weird position.
Yeah.
So she's like, this is a particularly tricky fracture that she's got to heal. So he's been out for like
24 hours.
About 24 hours.
Yeah.
As this thing kind of resets and regrows.
I wonder how many times in her career Madame Pomfrey has dealt with an injury where she's just like, you know what? I don't want to know the backstory. I'd rather not know.
See, as a person that deals with injuries, my general statement is, look, tell me the truth. I don't care what you tell anybody else. Uh-huh. I just want to know the truth. Mm-hmm. I'll even help you make up a really cool story. I just want to know what actually happened so I can help you best. But with her working in a magical school where there could be any number of things, and some of it, to be honest, the students themselves might not fully know because they might not be fully aware of what they actually did.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you could misspeak a spell or something and be like, right. I suddenly have antlers. I don't know what I said, but here they are.
Yeah, her job is way complicated. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. Harry asks Dumbledore's thoughts on him naming his son after him.
I love his response.
He goes, honestly, it's kind of a great weight to place on the kid.
I love it because on the one hand, it's kind of like this really humble brag of like, your kid can't live up to me, I'm Dumbledore. On the other hand, it is like, maybe you shouldn't have put all this weight on him. Like those were really big shoes to fill, and that's not fair.
Well, he's already got big shoes to fill because you're
a Potter.
You can maybe slide the Severus name by, but if you're naming him after potentially the two most famous people in the Wizarding world, Albus Dumbledore and Harry Potter, you have the first name of one and the last name of the other.
And I'm sure Snape became extremely famous.
I'm sure he did too.
In his post.
I'm sure he did, but I mean, it's still Dumbledore and Harry Potter. So what Dumbledore ends up doing here is essentially agreeing with a lot of Albus Potter's feelings here being like, are you kidding me? I have a lot to live up to. How can I possibly succeed here?
Right.
And Dumbledore's kind of like, yeah, that's kind of on you.
I wouldn't have shared that name.
Kind of on you there, Harry.
Yeah. I love how Harry just immediately ignores it, though. And
He
he's
does.
like, you know what? Let's change the topic real quick.
Oh, I'm wrong? Let's quickly change this subject. So, Harry says, how do I protect my son? And Dumbledore's like, I'm sorry, you're asking me how to protect a child in harm? Probably not the greatest question to ask me, but you cannot protect him from harm. Pain must and will come. What you must do is teach him how to meet it.
Right.
Which, honestly, one, he obviously starts off with a joke. He's like, are you sure you want to be asking me this question? Because clearly I didn't do a good job of it. But then he comes back with some actual sage wisdom, I think, of like, look, bad things are going to happen to you in life. That's just how life works. How do you meet those challenges? That's the most important part.
Well, also, too, there's a layer of... He mentioned how Bane told him Albus is in danger, and we know divination is in play. You would think that Harry, having had so much experience with prophecies and divination and knowing how tricky it is, you would think he'd recognize that, like, anything could be at play right now. It isn't one individual person, per se. It's not one individual, like... factor. Like, many things contribute to stuff, so you have to be careful about your actions because you could be contributing to the danger without even realizing it.
I think what we're seeing with Harry's actions in this whole process is he's fine, and you know, we've noticed this throughout his entire life story, but he's always totally comfortable putting his own life in danger. But as soon as other people's lives get put in danger...
Oh, he freaks out.
He freaks out.
Yeah.
And this is particularly a trigger for him because it's his son.
Yeah.
So he feels even more exponentially protective.
Yeah.
And he's like, look, I will go fight Death Eaters day in and day out just to make sure he's okay. I don't want him fighting Death Eaters day in and day out.
Right.
But Dumbledore doesn't stop with the sage advice. He continues... I think Albus wants you to just see him clearly. You know, part of the thing about being a portrait is it's a blessing and a curse that you hear things all the time. And I have a lot of portraits. So I hear things at the school. I hear things at the ministry. And people are generally concerned about the relationship you have with your son. And he continues with, you seem to be blinded by your love for him. You must look for what's wounding him.
How do you feel about that advice?
I like the advice of, hey, look, I'm hearing some things. and Harry immediately goes like, oh, what gossip is being said about us now?
Right.
And Dumbledore's like, no, not gossip. Concern, like genuine concern about your relationship falling apart. That's fine. Like, just letting him know, like, hey, people are more concerned here. That's fine. You're blinded by your love for him, and you must look for what's wounding him. Here's the thing that I don't like about this. It's too vague. It's very vague and very generic advice. And then what happens next? Albus Severus wakes up, and Albus Dumbledore just completely ghosts him out the painting before Harry is able to get any kind of clarification question out.
I like the advice about, like, you'd benefit by looking more closely at, like, what's wounding him, because I think that encourages him to talk to Albus in a way where it's like, hey, recognize your son is hurting and try to figure out what is hurting him more, because this hasn't really worked. I'm more questionable about the whole you're blinded by your love thing, because on the one hand, like, I mean, Dumbledore flat out told him when he was alive how he knew he made mistakes by being blinded by his love for protecting Harry. But at the same time, like, being blinded by his love for protecting Harry worked out in everybody's favor in the end.
So Harry starts to question his son now that Albus Severus is awake and Albus Dumbledore has left the scene.
I wish I could leave uncomfortable conversations the way a portrait could. Just be like, I'm gone, bye. Zero.
Did I leave
zero
you?
care about like social normities or whatever. I'm gone.
Did I leave you with a vague, unhelpful answer? Too bad, I'm out. Yeah.
I love it.
So Harry questions his son. Pretty obvious, straightforward questions. Where did you go? Oh, I went into the Muggle world. I wanted to get away. Wearing Durmstrang robes? Well, we didn't really think. He didn't really come up with an answer for that one.
No, he was like, we weren't thinking clearly.
Did you run because of what I said? And Albus says, I don't know. Hogwarts isn't great when you don't fit in. Madame Pomfrey had given Albus some chocolate to eat to help him just generally feel better when he woke up. And Harry's like, hey, can I get some of that chocolate too? Because I have some stuff that I got to say that might not go over very well.
Well, yeah, but just like the idea of them both sitting together, father and son, eating chocolate, talking, finally, like it's an awkward moment, but the two of them together, it feels like they have the potential to bridge the awkwardness. They have the potential, they just really, really fail at it.
Well, up to this point, I feel like we're going towards a good place. Mm-hmm. We're going to some real self-discovery here, and hopefully we'll end in a positive light.
Right.
And then Harry asks, did Scorpius encourage you? And Albus is like, what? No. Scorpius? No. Well, you need to stay away from Scorpius.
Mistake.
And then Albus Severus is like, what? What? Why? And Harry explains that Scorpius is dangerous, and the centaur Bane said that there's a dark cloud around you, and he has plenty of evidence to suggest that dark magic is resurging. And he goes further by threatening to give the Marauder's map to Professor McGonagall in order to keep them split at all times. And he says, you will specifically be staying in the Gryffindor common room in perpetuity.
Right.
Outside of class.
Which Albus is like, well, I'm a Slytherin. He's like, you know what house you're in. And you need to go to class. You can't leave Hogwarts. And you're to stay away from Scorpius as much as possible. And for Albus, this is like, this is the worst thing you could possibly be telling him. It's my best friend.
It's my only friend.
Yeah.
And Harry goes, if possible, even further by saying, if you're with him, I'll fix a spell to watch and hear your every movement.
And we're now going to start investigating Scorpius's background.
Yeah, he's throwing the full weight of the ministry behind investigations into Scorpius.
Mm-hmm. And then to top it all off, like, the comment that just drills it in is like, oh, Harry, don't do this. This is cringy. He says he doesn't need Albus anymore to like him as a father. He just needs him to obey him since he knows better than him.
Yeah, Harry pulls a straight-up Mandalorian, this is the way.
Father knows best.
Do not question me. Mm-hmm. This is the way. Mm-hmm. So that ends that scene. But before we take a little break and pause, I think Harry falls into a trope here a little bit that we see sometimes in a father-son or daughter relationship of like, look, I know you don't like me right now. This is for the best. I know better. Just trust that I know better.
Right.
Which, for the record,
very rarely goes well in those movies and books and stuff.
That's true. But I mean, even in real life, just for a second, adults have been through life. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you can see your child clearly making mistakes. And you're like, hey, I've been where you are. Don't fall into these traps.
Yeah.
I've been there. I've done that. Do better. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that hits and sometimes it doesn't. And what Dumbledore, I guess, is saying is like, look, hey, sometimes they got to make these mistakes. So you're getting like some conflicting fatherly advice here, and it's interesting that Harry goes basically right against what Dumbledore just advised him to do with like, hey, you can't keep him from harm all the time. He's going to encounter it.
Which I think is our first hint that this is a very different Harry now that they have done a change to the past. Because Harry in general, I feel like even in this play, I mean, like we've talked before about my versions of Harry in the books versus Harry in the play being different. But this Harry seems different from the start of the play, where it's just like he jumps to this conclusion that clearly the black cloud surrounding Albus is Scorpius. There can be no other explanation for it. I am going to force you to do what I tell you to in order to protect you. I'm not going to try to listen to you. I'm not going to give you the chance to explain maybe that you've done something in the past. Like, this is a very quick, blunt, aggressive Harry that we're not used to. And I think Albus, being his son, doesn't recognize it at first just because it's like, you know, Dad is telling me what to do and teenage angst.
I think it's Albus. This is the projection of Harry that he's always had. This is the Harry that Albus has seen in his head.
That's interesting.
The entire time, because he thinks Harry wants him to be in Gryffindor.
Yeah.
So even though Harry has outwardly said, like, hey, it's cool, man. If you're in Slytherin, then they'll have a great Slytherin student. Mm-hmm. And they'll have a great person in Slytherin, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. What he's got in his head, because of all the outside pressure, being like, oh, you're a Potter and you're not in Gryffindor? What's wrong with you? His projection is, I'm a disappointment because I'm not in Gryffindor. Now you have Harry now saying you're going to be in the Gryffindor common room.
Because we know where you belong.
Right.
Yeah.
So now it's like almost Albus's projection of Harry is becoming realized. Because as far as we know, Harry has also been relatively supportive of his friendship with Scorpius.
Oh, yeah.
And now he's saying, like, oh, nope, Scorpius is off limits, can't do that.
Yeah, he was like, I don't know when you became best friends with this kid. I don't know how that happened, but it happened, and I don't like it anymore, so I'm going to protect you from him.
So to me, that's another indication of almost this is Albus's personification of Harry coming to reality.
I think it's probably a mix of what both of us are saying, that it is the projection, but it is interesting that the projection also seems to be the slight changes from the butterfly effect.
I wonder how Albus is interpreting this now. Obviously, he's alarmed.
Yeah.
But
I think right now he's interpreting it the way you are, of like, oh, the truth finally comes out. I scared you enough that now you're going to admit it.
But I think it's such a stark difference in Harry's tone and demeanor that I think even Albus is a little shook by it, of like, wait. This isn't exactly you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is coming from out of left field. Like, some of the shock is what Harry's literally physically saying, of like, nope, you're staying in Gryffindor. Nope.
I'm going to spy on you.
I'm going to spy on you with a spell that's sick, by the way. I don't even know. But, like, we have to get to that, too. But I'm going to spy on you. You're going to stay in Gryffindor, and your best friend is now nixed. You can't see him anymore.
Yeah.
Like, that's shocking enough just to hear those words coming out of Harry. But I think even Albus has to admit that, like, oh,
it came out of nowhere.
This is a different vibe from you.
Yeah.
Even though if it's what I thought you might have been meaning behind a lot of your words, it's weird to have it like, ooh, this is all up in my face now.
He needs more evidence that they actually have changed the present/future. Whereas right now it's plausible that Harry could be reacting this way. I mean, he was just angry and scared about potentially losing Albus and upset that he clearly shows such animosity towards Hogwarts.
To be fair, as far as Albus is concerned, he's seen no outward changes to the world around him.
Right.
So, as far as Albus is concerned, he is unclear whether they've actually done anything or not.
Yeah, like he still thinks this is just
reality.
Yeah.
Before we get to break, really quickly, this spell. I'll fix a spell to watch and hear your every movement.
I mean, he does have the Marauders map, so at least he has the movement part covered, but being able to eavesdrop on him 24/7 and guarantee zero privacy is terrifying. It's a Black Mirror episode.
Yeah, it's horrifying. Obviously, he's leveled up in his magical abilities. Obviously, he has the ministry behind him, so there's a lot that he can do here and back it up.
Yeah.
But that's a real...
That's a threat.
He just escalates through this entire conversation. It starts off really, really well, and then just escalates and escalates and escalates. And you're like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. Well, we will pause here and we will return with scenes 9 and 10 after this short break. Before we get to our break sound, I'd like to acknowledge our friend Andy, who helps us produce our intros and our break sounds. If you want to hear more of Andy's work and like Formula One racing, check out the Outlap F1 podcast. It's your one-stop shop for Formula One news, insights, race previews, and reviews. You can find them wherever you listen to podcasts, and they even have a YouTube page. So check out Andy, Cody, John, James, and Deanna, and join them on the Outlap.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso and Samra Origins by the Weekend Coffee Collection.
Introducing Samra Origins. My collaboration with Nespresso is a connection to my roots, to my mother, Samra. Coffee that hits the right notes. It transports you. Crafted with unique notes and bold, soaring flavors. Experience a taste that moves you. Nespresso and Samra Origins.
Discover more at Nespresso.com.
All right, so we are back with Act 2, Scene 9, and we are at Hogwarts on a staircase. They are leaving the hospital wing now, and Albus is chasing Harry, threatening to run away again, and Harry is not having any of it. Luckily, Ron appears, and Albus says, "Thank Dumbledore! I could really use a joke right now." And Ron's like, jokes?
I don't do jokes.
Yeah, I'm not really a joke person. Also, there's another note. You really get a full look at Ron, and the appearance has changed even more drastically.
He looks like Percy.
Yeah, he looks very, very different from what he usually looks like. And he's kind of talking differently. Like, his cadence, his rhythm to how he speaks. I read it as more serious and maybe more... I read it as more defeated.
Yeah.
We've noted that Ron, generally, in this play, is a little bit different than the Ron from the books, in that he's maybe less serious, if anything.
He's, like, very much the jokey uncle, and now he's, like, stammering through his sentences and saying, like, you know, I don't run a joke shop, I don't do jokes, what are you talking about?
Ron has always been a center of humor in the series, but I feel like it's been a little over the top to a point.
Yeah.
Where almost the character of Ron in itself is a joke.
It's a caricature of him.
Kinda, yeah. But still, I suppose, in line with a trajectory for Ron. This seems like a departure from Ron entirely, where he seems a little bit more serious, a little bit more defeated. He mentions that him and Padma have made the decision to get him new quills for school because we think you need new quills.
Instead of sweets.
Yes. And Albus promptly asks, "I'm sorry, who's Padma?" And Harry's like, "Your aunt." And Ron continues, "Yeah, Padma's my wife and the mother of Panju."
Who's in trouble yet again.
Unbelievable kid. Unbelievable.
I like how Ron said he just wanted to send a howler because, like, that'd be the easier thing to do. But Padma said, you need to go up to the school and yell at him. And he's like, but Panju always laughs at me whenever I yell at him. Like, this kid does not take Ron seriously.
Harry says, "Don't worry about it, Ron. He's also forgotten that he has been sorted into Gryffindor." And then Ron specifically doubles down on that by saying, "Yeah, don't you remember you specifically asked to be in Gryffindor just to spite Panju?" Which, honestly, I can't blame you because the kid's got a lot to handle.
Well, Panju apparently bet him that he couldn't get into Gryffindor, so he was like, okay, fine, I'll show you up.
Yeah.
He also butted in and said how Ron is married to Hermione, and Ron's like, no, I'm not. Hermione? No. Yeah. Like, that was never going to happen. It's like, oh, if you haven't realized by now, something has changed.
Yeah, he's like, Ron goes, "Oh, hitting the head with a confundus spell, huh? Okay, yeah. Gotcha."
Yeah.
And then Ron leaves, and there's a note in the screenplay that says that Ron is, quote, not even an inch of the man that he was.
Yeah.
Which
is crazy.
Right?
Like...
So, and it makes you appreciate who Ron is, I think, a lot more.
Yeah.
Because, again, I read it and I'm like, oh, this is very clearly not the Ron that we're familiar
He doesn't
with.
have a spine anymore. He doesn't have a backbone.
He doesn't have much of anything.
Yeah.
So, yes, to start off Act 2, Scene 9, I think Albus is now fully aware of, like, we have really changed something. I don't know that he's put the Harry thing together yet.
No, I was going to say that too. I don't think he's recognized the change in his father, but in Ron not being married to Hermione, that's
the
big
big
thing.
one. And if both of them are saying, like, no, he doesn't remember that he was even sorted into Gryffindor. Like, that is his house.
Or this kid who didn't exist 5 seconds ago now exists and causes issues. Like,
no, we're not being, like, irrational here. You're being irrational. You were sorted into this house.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I think Albus is a little like, oh, okay. Scorpius then appears. And Albus asks, did it work? And Scorpius says, no, but Albus... And then gets cut off. And Albus says, we'll be better off without each other. Okay? And then leaves with Harry.
And it makes a note in the screenplay that his heart breaks as he walks away from Scorpius.
Who's very confused.
Yeah, understandable.
Very confused. And it is tantalizing to think about what Scorpius' answer was going to be there. No, it didn't work. But... And then I'm assuming he was going to drop some more changes.
Something
noticed.
I've noticed. This makes me so much more appreciate Prisoner of Azkaban. I know I said it at the time when we were recording these episodes, but I feel like Prisoner of Azkaban does such a good job of doing time travel in a way where it comes full circle and it works out for the best for everybody. Time travel stories usually make me cringe for this very reason, where it's like, you do one thing and it has completely thrown your reality as you know it into total chaos. And if you're like, oh, we made a mistake, now you have to go back and try to undo that mistake. But how do you undo the mistake? You can't. So do you just like go back and kill your previous selves? Do you like try to stop your previous selves? Do you just live in this reality now as your new normal? Like, it just makes me so anxious.
Well, the thing with Prisoner of Azkaban was it was a tight, concealed time.
Which I think is why it works so well. Bigger time jumps freak me out.
I mean, McGonagall had to have a conversation with Hermione, and she was just going back an hour every time. Dumbledore had to have a specific conversation with them for going back however many hours they did, like 3 or 4 hours, whatever it was. So he was like, hey, this could be a problem. Just so we're cool, make sure you're not seen. But this is not 1 to 3 to 4 to 12 to 24 hours.
No, this was 20 years.
Years.
Yeah.
So a lot of ripples have clearly been made here.
Which is always fun to think about, of how, I mean, like I said, like the butterfly effect, you change one tiny thing, you wouldn't think that that would cause a big issue. But even if you just like moved a chair a foot, that foot could be the difference of somebody tripping over themselves, breaking their neck, and then not seeing the person that they wanted to talk to, and then that doesn't cause a relationship, and everything just spirals. And it's so interesting to see the spiral, but it always makes me so anxious because I'm like, it's messed up so badly.
It creates the opportunity for a wonderful Harry Potter What If series.
Yes.
Which, if you wanted to go the Marvel route of having, like, if HBO did an animated Wizarding World What If.
Yeah.
Like, I think that could be really cool if they stay true to the what if aspect of it and not do what Marvel tried to do, which was tie everything together.
Yeah.
If they do just legit one-off, like, hey, what happens if Hermione and Draco got together?
Right.
Or, hey, what happens...
Lily chose Snape.
If Hagrid never taught at Hogwarts? What happens if Tom Riddle got caught Chamber of Secrets? Like, I mean, you could go a whole bunch of different ways.
Things, yeah.
I mean, it would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
But anyway, we digress and continue with Act 2, Scene 10. And it's in the headmistress's office at Hogwarts.
Okay, talk about cringy. This scene also gives me the anxiety of like, oh, I don't like this.
All right. There's a lot going on here. So we get a scene with McGonagall, Harry, and Ginny specifically. At least that's all that we know is in the room. McGonagall, generally unhappy. Harry, purposeful. Ginny, completely unsure about who she is or what she's doing here. Which, just that setup to this scene lets you know that
Things are different.
Things are different because, McGonagall can be unhappy, and Harry does have his moments where he's very driven. Just Ginny being unsure of herself. Ginny's never unsure of herself. She always has a presence.
She's confident.
She always has a presence about her. So just the initial setup of the scene where you're like, Ginny's unsure of her role in this seems odd. McGonagall is specifically unhappy about being a stalker, essentially. She's like, hey, look, I am the head mistress of Hogwarts, and you just want me to spy on this child the entire time?
And keep them separate from another child.
This is not my job.
Right.
This is not how the Marauders map was originally intended to be used. You're abusing a lot of things here.
Yeah.
I'm not happy about it.
As a teacher, I also would not be happy being told to just, keep an eye on this kid 24/7 because there's other children that I'm supposed to be, responsible for.
Forget that it's a former student coming into your office telling you this. It's a former student who is the head of magical law enforcement.
The ministry is telling you to spy on these children.
Not just the ministry, the head of magical law enforcement. So you essentially have law enforcement personnel coming into your office telling you, we have a concern, a security concern, you must do this.
Yeah.
So what McGonagall says to that is, because what the evidence Harry has to back that up comes from Bane and the Centaurs. So what McGonagall says is, look, I have no doubt of the wisdom of the Centaurs, but Bane is a particularly angry Centaur, and he might be twisting the constellations for his own ends.
Yeah.
For his own goals.
Yeah, his needs.
Which is interesting. And I have two thoughts on that. One, this is, I guess, an alternate timeline, just based on the fact that Professor Minerva McGonagall is acknowledging that the Centaurs have wisdom.
Yeah, respect for divination.
And respect for divination.
Yeah.
Not that she wouldn't respect the Centaurs, because I think she would be wise enough to respect them as a species. I'm not saying she's, anti-Centaur.
Yeah.
But the wisdom of them in relation to divination is probably a little bit of a departure from the McGonagall we all know. Just from the divination side. And then the idea of Centaurs twisting the reading of constellations for their own means.
Yeah, that doesn't happen.
Is interesting. Well, I suppose everybody's corruptible. Centaurs aren't immune to corruption.
Yeah, but I think what we saw of them was we are going to spend as much time as possible watching the stars because we don't necessarily always trust our own readings of it. And we're going to go out of our way to make sure that we all are seeing the same thing that we say we're seeing. There seems like there's a lot of it seems ironic to say for the wizarding world, but there's a lot of scientific method involved for them with reading the stars. We're going to do an experiment with reading it and then run that experiment again and again and again and again and again and make sure the results are the same every single time before we come to an actual conclusion.
Centaurs, especially Bane, I think like to present a certain type of image. I would highly doubt that every Centaur is on the up and up all the time. Just like people are corruptible. People have their own agendas. I would find it hard to believe that every Centaur ever has always been completely 100% genuinely neutral.
Honestly, her talking about this just makes me think from teacher mode that this is her way of trying to talk down an angry parent who is asking ridiculous demands and is being so much of a helicopter, it's insane. And is well, I hear you, I hear your concerns, but this might not actually be the case here. And I get that you're also the law enforcement, so I have to really listen to you and pay attention and be respectful. But at the same time, do you hear yourself?
I differ from you slightly. And I hesitate to say that because I know people are going to jump on oh, you're not backing McGonagall here. That's not what I'm doing. But I differ with you slightly because I think the threat that Harry is concerned about can be credible. It's like he has information. He has ministry information that has tracked an upsurge of dark magic throughout the wizarding world. Mm-hmm. That's credible, verified information. Now he's just had this information from a center that's more divination-based, but centers generally have more credibility with divination-type things than witches and wizards do. Mm-hmm. So to most everybody, that would be a more credible source of divination. So I think he's coming to McGonagall in a credible way as a member of law enforcement, being like, hey, we need to be on the lookout. Where I agree with you is he takes a poor approach and a poor tone with trying to sort this problem out with McGonagall.
And also the assumption that Scorpius is the dark magic and we need to like keep him separated from everyone, especially my son. Like, what evidence do you have that Scorpius is the dark magic?
In fairness to Harry here, Scorpius, there are already rumors about a potential connection with Voldemort. Also, he's the son of a confirmed Death Eater. I mean, there are connections to be made. He's not, like, pulling this out of nowhere.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like, as the teacher and headmistress, like, you can't just accuse one student of being a dark magic user without actual evidence.
Well, that's what he's asking for, is to watch.
No, it seems like the ask is keep my son separate from him because I want him to be safe, because the assumption is Scorpius is evil, my son is good, keep him away from him.
Well, the other evidence that Harry is using is the divination was there's a dark cloud around Albus. The problem is Albus is only ever around Scorpius. So Harry's connection is 1 + 1 must mean 2.
Like, a dark cloud doesn't have to be an individual person. There could be other dark clouds surrounding him. The assumption, though, is that it is Scorpius.
All I'm saying is that I don't think Harry's coming out of nowhere with all of this stuff. I think how he's just addressing McGonagall should be and could be better.
Oh, yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
I mean, even Ginny tries to step in, and Harry shuts her down in such a rude way that she's just like, oh my gosh. Like,
he cuts across her heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, continuing on with this discussion, Harry cites speaking with Dumbledore's portrait. And McGonagall cuts across him and is like, hey, we've had this discussion before. Portraits represent less than half of their subjects, which is just an interesting little factoid to put out there.
I like how she said it's a memoir, and it's also a support system for the current headmaster or headmistress whenever they need to make their like decisions about the school.
And she notes that she had to be counseled that the portrait is not the person.
Right.
It's a reflection of the person.
Right.
So even she, stepping into the headmistress's role, must have had a pull towards wanting to speak with Dumbledore's portrait. And someone had to come to her and be like,
take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, Minerva, you have to realize X, Y, and Z here.
Yeah.
But that's just interesting in general. And she finishes that idea with, you are making a mistake.
Which he doesn't care about. He says, you know what, Albus hasn't liked me before. He's going to continue to not like me because of what I'm doing right now. But at least he'll be safe.
And then he comes across with a really harsh comment.
Yes, which makes me cringe.
Harry says, like you just said, he might not like me, but he'll be safe. With respect, Minerva, you don't have kids. McGonagall, deeply hurt by that remark, says that I hope that a lifetime spent in teaching would mean...
And Harry cuts her off.
Harry cuts her off again and threatens the full force of the Ministry of Magic if McGonagall does not do as told. Understood.
And Ginny just looks completely shocked.
McGonagall says, perfectly.
I hate it.
Ginny looks at Harry as if she doesn't even recognize who he is anymore.
Yeah, this is like that rippling. Again, it seems like it's going faster and faster and changing their characters.
And Harry doesn't even acknowledge Ginny.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot to break down here. I want to get your teacher opinion of that last interaction between Harry and McGonagall, where, again, Harry says, with respect, Minerva, you don't have kids. And McGonagall responds with, I hope that a lifetime spent in teaching would mean. And then she falls off. Can you just give a little perspective on how McGonagall feels and might have ended that sentence?
It's so hard because it's like, yes, I too do not have children. I have not raised them. I haven't seen their ups and downs on a daily basis, 24/7, that kind of stuff. So I don't necessarily have that emotional connection the way a mother would to her child. At the same time, I've had over 500 children come into my classroom, and I've taught in small schools. This is my 14th year of teaching. People in much bigger schools have had thousands of kids come in and out of their classrooms. And I can still tell you like the names of people and the quirks that they've had. I shared laughs with them. I've shared tears with them. I was the emotional support for some of them when they were having really rough times. I see them struggle. I see them grow. And honestly, I see a lot of kids in general. I mean, we spend 8 hours a day, every day, like, being with each other. And sometimes parents comment, they're like, you see my kid more than I do, especially around their peers. Can you tell me like what they're like? Are they socializing well? Are they treating people kindly? Do they participate? Are they really quiet? Like, can you give me some insight to my child?
I wish more parents asked those types of questions.
I do too, because I do think it's fascinating having the conversations with the parents. Because sometimes I'll be like, yeah, your kid is so quiet at school. Like, I worry if they're feeling uncomfortable, or is it that the subject is too difficult for them, or what's the case? And they're like, they're quiet. They never shut up at home. They're like a social butterfly. And I think the relationship between parent and teacher is so valuable because it is a true version of what the kid is like. When you have your kid at home, whether they have siblings or not, they're more relaxed and comfortable, and they can disappear into their room or disappear into whatever they're interested in. At school, like, yes, I also have a lesson that I have to teach, and I have a lot of kids at once that I have to be aware of. So my attention is more divided. But at the same time, like, I do recognize stuff about kids, and I do feel like a connection to my students. Like, I still care about the ones that graduated 14 years ago. They're adults now. They're married. They have kids. And I'm like, you guys are still my children. So I could totally identify with McGonagall of being hurt in this moment.
To your point of some parents coming up to you and being like, you see my kids more than I do.
Mm-hmm.
That's at a normal school.
Yeah.
This is a boarding school.
Yeah, they see them all the time.
All day, every day. And
for 7 years straight. And your 7 years where you're really going through a lot of changes.
They literally see these kids more than their parents do.
Yeah.
Even if they saw them for the minimal amount of time that they had to, it's months more than their actual parents see them.
Yeah.
So McGonagall must feel like even more. I mean, you saw how proud she was of
Harry.
Of Harry's accomplishments.
Yeah.
Of the Gryffindor Quidditch team's accomplishments.
And protective of the students, regardless if they were Gryffindors or not.
How proud she is of her house and those that represent it well. Like, I think it was quite a harsh comment to make from Harry that just really had no basis.
Yeah.
And furthermore, just me as an aside, at what point do you get comfortable enough calling Professor McGonagall Minerva? Draco did it in a previous scene.
Yeah.
And now Harry's doing it here. I don't think I'd ever feel comfortable enough to at least maybe not headmistress. I would still be stuck in the, professor. Oh, professor.
I've had one teacher over my high school career that I would feel comfortable calling by the first name. Everyone else would be like, no, Mr. or Mrs. And I think of my students, I've had a few try to call me by my first name, and every time they're like, oh, this feels weird. I'm like, I know. Yeah, that's why most people don't do it.
So there's a lot going on in this conversation between McGonagall and Harry. And I think Harry, while having verifiable and credible points that he should and honestly needs to address with McGonagall, I think the way he goes about addressing these concerns is disrespectful, harsh, rude, and just feels wrong.
Yeah, it's not the way he usually addresses Hogwarts professors, let alone one that he once spat in somebody's face for insulting.
Yeah.
You know?
A professor that he himself holds in very high regard.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting way to end the scene and
showcase the changes of time.
Yeah, and I just want to speak to that really quickly as we wind down the episode here, that I personally, while reading scenes 7 to 10 here, as they've changed history, and then how we've seen it kind of progress, I really enjoyed it. I liked the slow, subtle rollout they did here, and slowly increasing and being like, hey, that seems odd. That Ron seems a little, looks a little different. Oh, Ron looks way more different than I thought he looked. Oh, that's not my Ron at all. That's a whole different Ron that we're getting. And then the Harry stuff. In the hospital wing, it seems mild.
Right.
Aggressive, but a little bit mild on the changes. You could see maybe Harry.
You could see him slipping and be like, no, you belong in Gryffindor.
I mean, we have had our real Harry say some pretty... Ooh.
Yeah.
Not the greatest comment kind of thing. So you can be like, all right, maybe Harry's just having a bad day. Maybe he's just stressed and he's letting some stuff fly. All right, whatever. This with McGonagall now has escalated even further. And you're like, oh, wow. we are in a whole different timeline. We are in a whole multiverse situation where none of these characters seem to be their characters anymore. And it's weird to kind of think, but I love how they rolled it out. I do too. I liked their execution.
The slow roll, and again, like I said, it makes me cringe. On the other hand, it also does make me wonder, okay, so by changing the one thing, what was then the ripple? What were the rolling effects that have brought about this kind of Harry or this kind of Ron? And it's just so fascinating.
Yep. Also, I think we see of the changes that we see, because I think Dumbledore did change. I don't know that our Dumbledore would have given that specific advice. Maybe he would have, maybe he wouldn't have. And same with McGonagall. I think McGonagall is mostly what she would be like. Maybe a couple of changes, like I said, with the divination and the centaur thing. But I think because they've lived longer lives at this point, the ripple effects have changed their characters the least.
Yeah.
Whereas our current adults, like Harry, Ginny, Ron...
We're talking about their teenage years that were then affected.
Yeah, they lived less of a life when these changes got made, so they have a lot of growth and a lot of development that has changed.
That's a good point.
And I think you kind of see the most drastic changes with that age group.
Yeah.
Which is kind of also interesting to note.
Well, I'm excited to see what other changes come across in the future scenes.
I'm excited for this as well, because I, love the Triwizard Tournament. You know I'm a big Cedric Diggory guy. And
delicious Cedric Diggory.
Dynamic Diggory. But I also really enjoyed seeing the slow roll out of these changes, and I'm very intrigued to see how this progresses and where this goes. Yeah. So... we will wrap it up here. Thank you guys for listening. Like I said earlier, please reach out by commenting on Blue Sky, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. You could find us all at Hogwarts a Pod. And you can feel free to also leave a comment on Spotify. Give us a review. All 5-star reviews really help us get the podcast out, get us seen, get us noticed on those Spotify searches. It really, really does help. Participate in the polls that you can also find on each episode. You got to scroll down a little bit, but they're there. And we love seeing the results on those as well. And I'm sure there will be an interesting one here, probably about the changes that we see through some of our characters.
Yeah.
So, really interested to hear what all of you have to say on those changes that we've seen. With that, we will end it here. Thank you for listening, and we'll be back soon with another episode. Thank you for listening to Hogwarts, a podcast. If you like what you've heard, please click the subscribe button on your preferred podcasting app and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Hogwarts a Pod.